Kate from Tested, and today I'm going to show you a little trick that I do in the industry where I make bushes out of chip brushes. As you've probably seen, these are plentiful all around, pretty cheap. You might even have some that are not quite good for painting with anymore, but you don't really want to throw them away. I'm always trying to find new uses for things. So if you ever do any little dioramas, if you like to do some tabletop gaming, this is a great trick. Super quick, using almost everything you have laying around, and I think you're going to get some fun results. I am going to start with, these are 1-inch chip brushes. I also have some 1/2-inch chip brushes. So first step is I like to use some sort of a silicone surface. You might have a silicone baking mat. That works really well. These are leftover silicone pads at the end of making a mold. I can never throw them away. So I have one here, and one of the great things about it, actually there's a little bit of glue on here already. Everything just pops right off. So whenever I'm doing a project where I need to be able to remove glue from the surface, I grab my silicone first. All right, so the base of any of these chip brush bushes is going to be hot glue. Now you can choose whether you want to make the hot glue first and stick your brush into it, or whether you want to start by applying the glue to the brush and putting it down. I'll say probably the biggest tip I'll offer is that you want to do a bit of a spinning motion to try and get these bristles as thin and as close together as possible, because remember, that's going to be like the base of your bush. It helps a little bit if they are a little closer together. Of course, if you want to do something that's a little bit more like spread out hedges or grass material, you're welcome to leave them spread wide as well. I'm going to try starting by applying it to the bristles, and then I will put it onto the silicone. All right. Add a little bit more glue to spread out my base. Keep spinning. When I have it in a place I kind of like it and I want to speed up the curing process, I'm going to hit it with some canned air upside down. It's worth noting, this is against the manufacturer's suggested use of this product. You see all the ice crystals forming around it. You know that it's cooled off. Now I'm going to take the handle and pry it off. There's some spots underneath where the canned air didn't hit, and that's still a bit wet and tacky, so I'm going to hit that specifically. If you notice anywhere along the base that you want to be attached better, you can feel free to add some more hot glue. Be careful not to spend too long there with the tip. It will remelt what's already solidified. You can also keep in mind it's going to differ for whatever your application is going to be. If you really want to have a super low profile base, then obviously using as little glue as possible is your end goal. A lot of times I will dress these out with other things on top, like little bits of dirt or walnut shells, scenery materials. So I'm not too concerned about how thick my base is. All right, that is dry and secure. I'm now going to separate the bristles from the brush. I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors and cut through. Obviously, choose how tall you want your bush to be. I'm going to go about here. There we go. This is quite a messy procedure. Now, we've got a pretty shapeless or brush-shaped bush at the moment. The first thing I'm going to do is add a little bit of super glue along the base to hold any other loose bristles that might be there. Go in a little from the outside. You can try sticking your nozzle down and adding it from the inside. Keep in mind, however you want to finish this. how the glue will affect that look. Should be pretty okay. Spreading these bristles out to make sure the glue can reach the bottom. Adding a little bit of kicker to make sure all of that cyanoacrylate super glue is completely cured. Otherwise you're going to end up with some sticky fingers. These bristles have already gotten much stiffer because they've got a lot of glue holding them in place. That's great. Now I'm going to work on shaping this. You're perfectly welcome to use your large size scissors that you used before, but I like to have a pair of little scissors for doing the trimming. Give this nice little haircut. The secret to authenticity when you're making things that are supposed to be natural and from the real world is making them uneven. A little bit crazy here and there. Not too uniform. That one's good enough. I'm going to try and make another one, this time with the 1/2 inch size. Something that I noticed with my last bristle brush is that it was a lot of time I spent fighting that flat shape from where I cut it. So I think from now on, when I do the cutting off of the brush itself, I'm going to try and alter it right away, so then I don't have to do as much cleanup afterwards. I think I much prefer the initial look of this one. I tried to be a lot more random with my cutting. I spun the brush while I trimmed it, and it came out pretty good. I'm going to try another 1-inch brush, but using the technique that I was happy with the 1/2 inch brush. Let's see if that gives me a different result. I'm just gonna keep making these until I feel like I have perfected the technique and that I'm really happy with the finished product. It's never a bad idea to get it right. I got a bubble. I'm going to do this one without adding any cyanoacrylate and see how different it is. Well, this bush is definitely more flexible. You can get a little bit more of the kind of crazy hairs going out to the side. But you also are going to get a lot of shedding, so keep that in mind. I like the look. You know, you're always welcome to do your shaping first, and then if you want to keep it from shedding, add a little bit of glue once you're happy with it. I like this. I like the width I'm able to get. I like that one. That one's my favorite so far. All right, I'm going back to the 1 inch and I'm going to try something a little bit different. Since I want to avoid the long rectangular shape that it naturally is, I'm going to try pinching the bristles together and then dipping it in the glue and setting it that way, seeing if I can change the shape. Well, now that I seem to have got my technique down for these great little bushes that come out at the top, I'm gonna try and see if I can make some really good ones that look a little bit more like flat pieces of grass. You know, as if you've got like a little hedge of grass that can obscure something in front of them. This means I don't have to fight the natural shape anymore. I'm gonna let it stay a little more rectangular, spread out wide. think ones like this would look really good, maybe along a fence line, up against a building, anywhere where you might have little fanned out pieces of grass coming up. I like that one. See, the more you do, the more happy you are with them. Okay. I don't love these, but I'm sure they have a place somewhere in the background. All right, I have finished creating all of these little bits of grass here. Now I'm gonna move on to what I call the pretty pass. So you can take this time to trim up any of your glue bases if they're a little crazy, if they're maybe too big. Take your little scissors and cut them to the size you want. You can also take this time to go find all those crazy little bits of hair that are sticking out to the side and trim and remove anything like that. One thing you can do if you are looking to make this sort of a desert scene and you want to leave the bristles somewhat natural as they look, but you don't like the look of, there are always a few of these little black hairs in there, you're welcome to pull them out. You can trim them off, or when we get to our next step, which is painting, you're welcome to just cover them up. I think I'm going to try and leave these mostly golden in color, but to add a little bit of realism to it, I'm going to add a little bit of some wash, maybe a little hint of green here and there, but for the most part, keep them looking a little bit more deserty. Now I want to keep these pretty tan. I want to keep the natural color of the chip brush, but just add a little bit of color. I tried doing a little bit of the brown wash, but it came out maybe a little darker than what I was looking for. So now I'm just watering down this green and adding little bits here and there. I just want hints to show that it used to be alive and now it's drying out in the sun. If you have a particular wash that you like to use or that you know you want for your project, I don't see any problem with doing a good dunk. Definitely recommend having a specific cup with that wash in it so that once it gets filled with bristles, which it will, you can easily rinse it out and it won't contaminate your paint. But honestly, that would be the quick and easy way to do it. Since I want this to be fairly light, I'm doing it by hand, but I'm watering it down a lot so that it doesn't leave too opaque of a pigment behind. I bet if you wanted to make these look like still thriving, fully green grass, you could easily dunk this into a full green paint and set it up right, let it dry. You'd get through it very quickly, and I think you'd have something that looked pretty good. Well, I have finished applying my paint pass. It's really more of a wash. I really like the way the green looks on these little bushes or mini grasses. It really adds a little bit of realism while still allowing some of that natural chip brush color to come through. I would say the last step is to figure out how you want to display these. Again, it's gonna change based on whatever you want to use it for, whether you've made super small bases, whether you have wider ones so that they're good and stable. Traditionally, what I've done at studios before when we've used these in sets is you build up like a little bit of earth around the brushes so that you can't see that glue base, but the glue is adding a really nice bit of stability. Like these aren't going to tip over, and you could even tack them down if you wanted to, either with glue or with something like Quake Hold, Butyl, whatever, to stick it down. I have a little bit of ground nutshells here, and those are pretty good in general. I'm not sure if I like the scale of it. And then I also have a powdered earth material here. So, you know, if you've got some sand laying around, if you've got some sort of a dirt you want to use, or maybe you have another kind of ground covering that this is gonna be blending in with, anything's on the table. Have some fun with it, play around, and let me know if you make any and what they look like. I'm just gonna play around with what I've got right now and hope it turns out good. Here is my finished dressed set of grass and bushes. I'm pretty happy with it. Thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments, and please send pictures if you try anything like this. I'd love to see what you make. See you next time.